All right. My name is Commander James. I'm with the University Police Department, and today we're going to be discussing workplace violence. How many of you have been to this presentation before? I figured that was going to happen, so I changed up the slides, right? I gave a little extra today. So that being said, I want you to think about something before I show you a quick video. I want you to think about how many of you have had an incident of workplace violence in your respective areas, okay? Now, once I get to about the slide 3, I'm going to ask you again, and I bet you more hands go up, okay? But before we do that, one thing that we used to teach a long time ago was, hey, if there's a sound of violence, run. Hey, if you can hide, hide. Well, things have changed. Would you agree? Throughout the world, things have changed. And so now, a few years back, the city of Houston put together a video. It's a great video. Department of Homeland Security helped sponsor it. It's called Run, Hide, Fight. How many of you have seen that video? A few, okay. What you're going to see today is now what is being taught all over the U.S. It has changed dramatically, okay? So with that, here we go, James. You ready? Hit me with it. Seamless.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. as a last resort. If your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Okay. So, slightly different message than we heard before, right? How many of you, when he pulled that shotgun on, you were like, oh, wow. Yeah, I remember the first time I showed this video. It was a couple years ago. It was to a group of supervisors, and I remember going, hey, look, there's some new video footage. I want to show this to you, and I showed it to them. And the first thing out of their mouth was, oh, my God, when that first shot went off, okay? So it does still trigger to people. It's still like, oh, wow, this can happen, okay? So that being said, let's kind of talk a little bit about, let's see if I can get this to work here. No, that's not going to work. Which way do I go, guys? There we go. There's our YouTube video. So I asked you before, how many of you have had this happen to you, okay? So first of all, well, what is it? Workplace violence it could be a physical assault, threatening behavior, a verbal encountering, something that happens in the workplace setting. That's all it is. And that workplace setting can be any location, whether it's permanent, whether it's temporary, whether an employee performs some type of work-related duty at that site. So does anyone travel here? Okay, where do you travel to? Around camp, right? But you go from here to there to there. So everywhere is your location, okay? So it doesn't matter where it happens at. It still can occur anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to happen in one particular place. So what are some of the acts that we see? Well, they include things like beatings and stabbings, suicides, shootings, rapes, psychological traumas, threats, verbal abuse, or obscene phone calls, intimidation, harassment of any nature, including bullying, and then last but not least, followed at, being shouted at, okay? Now, looking at those, how many of you have had workplace violence and maybe you didn't even realize it? Yeah. How about having a colleague dump undue work on your desk? Has that ever happened before? Heck yeah, it has. If you've ever worked with Todd Renwick, it has. I'll tell you that right now. I'm kidding. He doesn't do it. Okay? So these are just some of the things. This is not an all-inclusive list, though. And so ultimately people ask, well, what else could it be? Whatever makes you feel harassed, threatened, intimidated, any type of bullying type behavior, that's workplace violence in some way. Okay? Is anyone for parking here? Oh, yeah. Hey, this one right here, right? How many times has that happened a day to you all? Put a little note in the car, and all of a sudden you come out to your car. How many of you have ever got a parking ticket? Come on. I know I have. Yeah, right? You get out there, and all of a sudden you're like, doggone it. Okay? That's their job, though. That's what they do. And they get harassed for it. So the FBI kind of pulled some stats from 2000 to 2013, and here's what they found. 160 active shooter incidents. And how do they determine that? That's a median of 2 people per incident that are killed and or injured, so you could have a total of up to 4, okay? 60%, though, 60% end before cops ever arrive. That's over half. That's a big percentage. 40% commit suicide. 13% ended after an unarmed citizen successfully restrained the shooter. Now the numbers start coming down. 44 incidents ended less than 5 minutes, and 23 ended in less than 2 minutes. That's fast. That's really fast. and 46% happen in a place of commerce, so a store of some kind. 24% happen in an educational environment, and then 10% on government property. So you can kind of see the division that happens there. Especially with these numbers here, they say in an active shooter, every 7 to 10 seconds is one gunshot, which means someone dies. That's how fast and how rapidly it occurs. It is a quick incident. Now imagine you're working on the 5th floor of Anzari Business and gunshots are fired on the 1st floor. Are you going to hear those? No, what might it sound like? How many of you have ever heard a gunshot inside of a building? I got one lone handy. He's like, yeah, maybe, possibly. Okay, so it happens. Is it loud? If you're in the room, it's loud. What if you're 5 or 6 rooms away, though? Is it loud? How about it sounds just like a book dropping, hitting the table? It's not loud. So you have to use other things, people screaming, people with blood, the mass notification system, other things that are going to be in place to assist going, yes, this is an actual active shooter. And the hard part here is, what's the first thing that your brain tells your body? Is this really happening? You ever had a dream and it was so real that you woke up, you're like, okay, whoo, I didn't just drive the car off the cliff into the ocean, right? You ever had one of those? That's what your body goes through. It says, wow, is this real? Is this really happening to me? And yes, it is. So that first 10, 15 seconds is almost a disbelief that it's occurring. When 9/11 happened, a lot of people actually perished because they went back to turn their computers off and gather their personal belongings because they wanted to normalize what was happening. Your building just got hit by an airplane. They wanted to normalize what was happening. Oh, I got to at least do this before I go. Well, by then it was too late. Okay, so it's a behavior that happens in humans. So we have to talk about our survival mindset. That's why we're here today. Okay? So number one, we got to develop it now. And that's by doing a few things. Threats can happen anytime, anywhere, to anyone. How many of you have ever been in a car accident? Quite a few. When that car accident happened, did you jump right out of the car or were like, oh yeah, car accident? Or did you go, did that just happen? That's exactly what you did, right? Did I just hit that car? Did that car? I got hit by a semi. So the semi hits me, and my car goes flying, and I suddenly am like, huh, what just happened? Well, I had a concussion. That's what just happened. Airbag deployment, and I had to take a few seconds to gather myself. I didn't know what happened. That's what it's going to feel like. Okay, you must take direct responsibility for your safety. Hence why you're here. Hence why you're here. Know your office and your buildings. Know your fire escape routes. Is the closest exit necessarily your best exit? What about a window? How many of you have ever tried to break one of these industrial strength windows around the university? I'm telling you right now, they're tough to break. So thinking that in advance, if I needed to, how could I break that window? I'm not suggesting you go back tonight and attempt to break your window. Don't tell them Commander James said so. But think about the closest exit may not be an actual door. It may be some way else out. In Virginia Tech, a lot of students survived by jumping out of the second-story window. Now, did they break their legs, break their ankles, dislocate? Oh, yeah, absolutely. But were they alive? Yes, they were. Ask yourself, what if? I'm walking to my office, and all of a sudden, a gunman comes down the hall. All of a sudden, flames start shooting out from my door. All of a sudden, the building starts to shake uncontrollably. That's what we're talking about. Does it have to be an active shooter to be horrible? No. If you were in Japan or over in Asia anywhere these past few weeks, the ground shaking below you is probably more terrifying than anything because you can't control it. How many of you have been in an earthquake? It's terrifying, isn't it? The ground just shaking, you're going, there's nothing I can do. That's the feeling you're going to have. But you have to prepare for those things. Okay? Whether it's earthquake, to fire, to gunman, doesn't matter. Prepare yourself mentally and emotionally to react. The fact that you're here, we're discussing situations, and you go home and you what if it, your brain now has a blueprint. Regardless if it ever happens, at least it has something to fall back on. Because when the you-know-what hits the fan, the only thing your brain has is an event in the mind stored somewhere. Whether you've trained for it or at least thought it through, now you've got something in the memory bank. And then mentally and physically practice your plan. How many of you have practiced a fire drill? Probably everybody, right? How many of you have practiced an earthquake drill? Okay. How many of you have practiced a workplace shooter violence drill? Yeah. So, whoa, what just happened there? You know how many people died in the U.S. from fire last year in the workplace? 9. You know how many people died in the workplace because of guns? A lot more. Okay? We spend a lot of time putting what over doors? Exit signs, fire retardant materials, but guess what we don't do? Put bulletproof materials in. Okay? Now, are the odds of you dying in the workplace a lot lower than, say, getting bit by a great white shark? Yeah. You can probably get bit by a great white shark before you have workplace violence happen. which is crazy, I know, because I hate swimming in the ocean. I don't know about you all. So an active threat. How you respond to that threat will be dictated by the circumstances. And this is the issue. People ask, well, what should I do? Here's my answer. Run, hide, fight. Because I don't know where you're at, what you're doing at the time you're doing it. What if you're walking down the hall? What if you're in your office? What if you're in the bathroom? What if you're going to lunch? What if you're just driving up? There are so many things, but that's why we what if things. We what if those things to give our brain something to think about. Keep in mind there could be more than one threat involved in the same situation. All right, let's take an earthquake. You get an earthquake, okay, the earth stops shaking, but now what happens? Pipes start breaking, fires break out, looting occurs. There's more things that are going to start, not just the earthquake. That's one thing that starts leading to more and more problems. And then 3 options, like we talked about, for that threat, for that workplace violence, the active threat, is run, hide, and fight. So alert others. How many of you have a code word? We got code words. We got a few. Oh, good, good. So a code word that one department on campus uses is bring me the green folder. What does that mean? It means there's a problem. It means someone up front has an issue. Now, what's the one thing they have to keep out of their workplace? Green folders. You can imagine them going, no, bring me the green folder. Okay, so they got to keep those out. How about I got to go stack the Starbucks cups? That's another one. How about I got to water the plants? All of our plants are wax. That's the point. Okay, it's something that's so obscure that I wouldn't even think about that, right? Chinese sausage. You're running and you're running and you're running. Okay, there's your password. Think of something that the words, the action is mundane that no one would think about. If you were sitting up front or you're encountering someone and you go, hey, can you do me a favor and bring me the tire iron? Someone on the other end goes, I know he or she's in trouble. I can send help. I can call the police. I can call a supervisor, whatever I got to do. So a code word of some kind. Same thing with a calling tree. If I call one person and that one person calls one person and we start doing the 2 and the 4 and it starts to exponentially reach everybody, that's what we're looking for. Okay, if the threat is still present, whether it be a person, fire, or other, call 911, attempt to go somewhere. If you can get out, always try to get out. That's your best option, okay? I get asked, if I follow the steps, run, hide, fight, do I have to follow those in order? No. What if I turn the corner and there's the bad guy? What do I have to do right then and there? I got to fight, right? Or maybe I turn and run. I don't have to do them in order. You can start and stop wherever you need to. Try not to move those injured persons unless the threat of letting them stay is greater than that of injury. Especially with the neck injury, they fall, whatever it may be. If you can leave them there safely, leave them there. And then we'll get medical to them. And then don't assume that help will come quickly. Well, let me tell you, our average response time on campus is about 90 seconds. It's pretty quick, okay? Average response time around the nation is something like 9 minutes. 6.5, 9 minutes. We're pretty quick. And that's not just us. Who else is coming? City of Reno, Washoe County, everyone's coming. When the Sparks Middle School happened, there was every agency I knew in Washoe County was there. I mean, there were a lot of police there real quick helping out. All right, so know your building. Learn your evac options ahead of time, kind of like we talked about. So what's one option? Run, okay? There's a clear path. Take it. Get out. Evacuate whether others agree to or not. Can you imagine you're trying to go and someone's on the ground laying there going, I don't want to move. They are frozen with fear. What do? Do you leave them there? Do you pick them up, carry them? That's something you're going to have to come up with at the time. What they're saying here, though, is your safety comes first. First and foremost, your safety. Okay? Leave your belongings behind. Again, we talked about 9/11. They went back for them. Don't worry about the computer. The university will get you a new one. Okay? Don't worry about that stuff. We'll get you a new one. The important thing is we can't replace people. We can replace equipment. Help others escape if possible. Okay, you saw in the video, while the guy was running out, kind of leading, the hysterical girl was in the middle, and then the other girl was behind her doing what? Yeah, you could say it. She was pushing her. Let's go. Keep moving. Okay? In theory, had that been an actual event, did that woman save her life? Probably. Because hiding under your desk and pulling your chair in does not necessarily stop bullets or hide you. And then prevent others from entering the area. That guy on the bicycle, they go running after him. Hey, come on back. You got to get over here. Try not to let others go inside that area. And then call 911 when you're safe. Just remember, though, the second that something like this happens, how many calls are going to 911? A lot. And a lot of calls are coming to us, and then we're activating the emergency alert system. If we can hide, okay? Hide, barricade the door, find something heavy to get behind, something that'll stop bullets. Silence your cell phone. We all have that little thing on the side, generally speaking. If you have an iPhone, you click down, okay, it silences the phone. Find a way to silence it quickly. Then hide behind large objects, the copy machine. Tip your desk over, whatever you got to do. Get behind something heavy. Remain very quiet. Is that going to be difficult to do? Well, if you're terrified, it can be, sure. That may be very challenging. Okay, then our last option here, fight. Okay, attempt to incapacitate the threat. He was using the fire extinguisher as a hitting device. How else could we have used the fire extinguisher, though? Yeah, spray it. Has anyone ever been in a room when fire extinguisher's gone off? Well, it's miserable, isn't it? The air leaves, and all of a sudden, you can't breathe. That may have been a better option. The guy was wrapping a belt around his hand. There was a microwave oven behind them. There was a table. There was a desk. There were other weapons of opportunity we certainly could have used. But you're going to have to act super aggressive. It's not, oh, I just slightly hit him with a fire extinguisher. I mean, it's like you're Babe Ruth. Okay, you're batting for 1,000, and you're trying to hurt this person so I can get out, because that's what's important. Your safety is important. Okay? Improvised weapons, we just talked about. Anything is a weapon. Anything is a weapon. And then commit to your actions. You got to follow through. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. But that's why we what if those scenarios. That's why we what if everything. So law enforcement response. Immediately, it's going to happen. And then our goal is to locate, isolate, and then neutralize or eliminate the threat. The hard part here is, as we're coming through, if we still hear gunshots, where are we going? To the gunshots. If there are people laying in the way, that's why we have a second and third wave of police coming in. They're now triaging those people. They're bringing REMSA in. Does everyone remember Gabby Gifford a few years back, shot down in Arizona? The individuals there, the deputies, had actually been trained in how to use tourniquets. They saved 9 lives that day, according to the ER doctor said. If they wouldn't have put tourniquets on these people, they would have died. And so now, learning from others, we all carry tourniquets. We have first aid kits on us because we see how important it is, and we receive training in them. Okay? So here you can see, this is at Upiqua Community College, this one here. And I'm going to show you some more photos from the college so you get an idea what it looks like. So here, you're going to have people show up, start looking like that. Is the SWAT team going to jump in from a helicopter and be here in 7 seconds? No. And as a member of a SWAT team at one point, I can tell you it takes about an hour to get there, get suited up, and get briefed onto what's happening. So the average patrol officer is the one handling this. And again, you saw how fast, within 5 minutes, generally these things are over. So a law enforcement response. Hey, you may get treated as a suspect. You got to remember, we don't know everybody. And if people are running out of a building, screaming and yelling, we don't know who the bad person is. Or, quite honestly, what may have occurred. All right, weapons could be aimed at you. They might be aimed at you, yes. Okay? You may be searched or handcuffed. That's challenging because I'm sure, as you can see, we only carry 1 or 2 sets of handcuffs on us. If 100 people come running out of a building, it's very difficult to handcuff everybody. So what maybe you do, we're going to kind of corral you somewhere else until we start going through systematically. We may put you in lines, however we do it, and I'll show you a photo here of what it looks like, to try to get to that point of, okay, you're clear, you can go, you can go, you can go. And then you may need to keep your hands in the air, okay, or on your head, doesn't matter. We're going to tell you to raise your hands up. And then you may be escorted out of the building by law enforcement. That absolutely may happen. At Sparks Middle School shooting, I remember telling the little kids, okay, guys, come on up. And the kids would get up, and they'd come out to us, and I'd be like, okay, see a police officer right down there? All right, run down to him. They go running down to him, and they thought it was a game. He'd be like, okay, you see her? Run down to her. They'd go, run down to her. What were we trying to do, though? Just get the kids out. And it was fascinating because one side of the school, they were walking up, looking at us. We had guns drawn, rifles out. And they were like, oh, cool guns, man. And you're like, oh, my gosh, there's been a shooting here. Well, those kids were inside. They had no clue what really happened. We got to the south side, and we started clearing from the outside in because it hadn't been cleared. And those kids were shaking. We had to physically lift them, put their feet down, and make them walk because they had seen what had happened. But those teachers, they helped those children. They saved lives that day. They really did. And their procedures of locking doors helped tremendously because no one could get inside. And that's, we don't want the shooter back inside. That's what it could look like. Okay, so try to avoid. running towards the police. Well, we kind of know that's going to happen. You're terrified. You're scared. We want to get out. Heck, I'd be running too, right? So we know it's going to happen. Pointing at officers. Don't come outside and be like, I got information for you. Don't do that, please. Just keep your hands in the air, okay? Just keep where we can see them. Make quick movements. Scream, yell, and demand. We understand people are going to be, incredibly hysterical, I guess is the way to put it. We understand that. We train for that. We know it's going to happen. Try not to have anything in your hands. Nice and organized, okay? Now, the community college in Washington, this is what happened. They took them out. They did a fantastic job. They really did. The police officers there, the teachers, the professors, the faculty and staff, even the students, they listened to instructions, and it made it a better situation that was already horrible, but they made it a little bit better. So do raise your arms. Do spread your fingers. Show the hands as you drop to the floor if they ask you to drop to the floor. Okay? Keep your hands visible. Spread your arms and feet, and then just listen. Now, we also know if you've been in a room when someone has pulled the trigger of a gun, what happens to your hearing? It's gone. We also know that, okay? So when you come out, we're trying our best to de-escalate a situation, to bring you over, try to get you relaxed, try to get the information out of you that we need, but we also understand that you may not be able to hear. We got it. And so here you can actually see good, solid. Here's a line, 3 officers, hands on head, and they're searching bags. Okay, and again, that's from UPECO College up in Washington, when the shooting last, I think it's November, December. You can see they did a great job of methodically going through those individuals. Now, I put this picture in so you kind of get an idea of what happens. So a shooting occurs, a mass event occurs, fire, doesn't matter, earthquake. This is what happens. So you've got your patrol officer. He was on patrol, this sergeant here, he was just on patrol, and all of a sudden he gets the call, hey, we got problems. He tosses a big overvest on, grabs his rifle, and he's out the door, he's ready to roll. Next guy, 2 guys, it's convenient, the SWAT team was training that day. SWAT team was already in SWAT gear. They were there within 30 minutes, and they were searching rooms. So you got 2 guys on a SWAT team. You got a guy here who's got basically a suit and tie on, probably a detective. He heard what was going on. He threw his stuff on, let's go. Got another guy over here that doesn't even look like these 2 guys. Probably because he's from a SWAT team from another county who came over to assist, or the sheriff's department, or another police department, because that's what's going to happen. And then last but not least, you got a guy, it's kind of hard to see right here, he's in jeans. You have an entire spectrum of what it looks like. But what does everyone, generally speaking, have? An identifying shield of some kind marking them as the police. Okay? You may see this. You may see guys with beards show up and have police equipment on. We have what's called the street enforcement team. That's their job. Men and women to go out and fight the street-level drugs, that's what they do. And so they may show up with beards. Okay? They're going to be clearly marked, though. We have to be, and if they're not clearly marked, under not only our policy, but everyone's policy, they're not allowed inside, because you can imagine an officer, a detective, coming in with a gun looking like that with no identifying mark. Is that going to add havoc to the scene? Yeah, absolutely. And so that's part of the generally throughout Washoe County, that's what we have a regional protocol that we all follow. So suspicious and criminal behavior. All right, so people who do not appear to be conducting legitimate business. How many of us see people like that on campus every day? Right, we do. Yeah, I saw one rummaging through the trash as I came up here. Okay? That happens. We understand that. We know it. What we're talking about here, though, is you're in your work area and suddenly some random person just comes walking through. And you're like, who the heck is that? You ever had that happen before? Is that a little bit freaky? Heck yeah, it is. So how do you handle that? What would you do? Someone comes walking through. I come walking through in civilian clothes. Do. Hey, how's it going? Just keep kind of walking. What would you do? Yeah, there you go. Hey, can I help you? That's not rude, right? That's legitimate. Hey, can I help you? Who are you looking for? What do you need? Okay? We have a controlled area in our police department, and we still get people who walk through occasionally like, hey, man, what do you need? Because we don't know. And they have to sign in and everything. They have legitimate business there. We don't know. We challenge them. That's what we do. If they look at you and go, don't worry about it. Well, then you know what you do? You pick up the phone, and who do you call? You call us. Because we'll worry about it. Like, hey, just go ahead and have a seat. I called the police. They'll be here in about 90 seconds. Okay? Oh, my name's John. I'm here for whatever it is. Suddenly they get really nice to you when you tell them you called the cops. I know. That's the way it works. People monitoring areas, buildings, entrances, strange behavior. Now, every day it feels like there's an orientation of some kind going on throughout campus, right? So you've got people who are prospective students walking through going, what a beautiful campus. Unless it's today when it's snowing outside and it's almost May, maybe those California kids aren't thinking so much about coming here for college, right? It's snowing, it's great. Here you're going to have people doing what? Taking a lot of photos, taking a lot of pictures of buildings, that normal behavior. Okay. We're talking about the person who's sitting by the door with a paper just staring at the door for hours on end, not moving. That's the kind of person we're talking about. Unauthorized people in restricted, sensitive, or private areas. If the Joe staff finds someone walking through the back walkways here, that's strange. People shouldn't be doing that. People wearing clothing not consistent with the weather. So today they're outside and they got shorts and a short sleeve shirt on. Or it's 95 degrees and they have a parka. Okay, is that strange behavior? Yes. Is that normal? No. Say something. An individual attempting to access utility locations, whether it's a server, whether it's an elevator room, whether it's some kind of utility closet for power, they're trying to access those things. They shouldn't be accessing those. And then multiple persons who seem to be working together. Okay? So be alert. Abandoned vehicles. How many abandoned vehicles do we have on campus? None. That's how many. The people don't abandon vehicles here. If they do, they get towed. If we find a vehicle that's been here for more than a day or two, we'll put a 48-hour notice on it if it's not parked legally, and it'll get towed, especially in travel lanes, because people do that sometimes. Vehicles parked near buildings, public or common areas that aren't supposed to be parked there. Okay, we get calls for those kind of things. Now, 9 times out of 10, it's what? Someone dropping off something, they run it, and by the way, just because you put your flashers on doesn't mean you can park there. They get out, they run inside, they do their thing, and then they come back, right? We know that. It's the car that was left there for 3, 4, and 5 hours parked in the fire lane. That's what we want to know about. That's what we should be aware of. Unexpected and unfamiliar delivery trucks. A change of routine. Feel free to challenge people. Is the world changing? Are tactics changing? Yes. Challenge those kind of people. Unfamiliar vehicles. Vehicles containing unusual, suspicious material. Okay? Vehicles arriving, being left behind at odd hours, especially in delivery docks. And then substances leaking or spilling from vehicles. I came back towards the station one day, and as I'm walking back, I'm looking at this big white van, no markings, normal plates, no windows except for the front, and it's got fluid coming out of the back of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Luckily, I do these presentations, so I know what I'm looking for. I was like, okay, give me someone out here, ran the plate, came back to a delivery company. It was a refrigeration truck. Well, the refrigeration had stopped working, and now it was just melting. So we called the guy over, hey man, he's like, oh my gosh, no way. So, but it was that doesn't look right sort of thing, okay? That's what we're looking for. Building office security. Okay, so don't prop open building doors. Last night, graveyard shift found 7 doors that had been propped open with a rock because someone needed to get back inside at some point. So they go around, they find those doors, and they secure them because we're just giving people access to something they don't need access to. So don't prop them open. Account for and secure keys. When you have employees leave, what should we do with their keys? We should get them back. How many of you are like, I know there's at least 10 keys from my department that are unaccounted for? Yeah, you know it. And it happens, especially when you go, hey, we've got to go retrieve keys, and the person moved to, India or went over to Ireland or is somewhere in Brooklyn. Trying to get keys back is very difficult. And how cheap is it to rekey a building? It's not, is it? It's expensive. So account for all those keys. Account for and secure all sensitive material. Now, sensitive material in the past was, computers and things of that nature. Now what is sensitive material? Dates of birth, social security numbers, any kind of personal identifying information. You make sure we secure that stuff. To include, when you leave your workstation, lock your computer. Don't leave your computers open. Secure all areas when not attended. If the door has a place that it can be shut and locked, and you're not going to be in there for a while, lock it. Just err on the side of caution. Is it a pain in the butt sometimes to take out your key and unlock a door? Sure. But you're securing it. That's what you need to do. Protect access code, combination, cards. If you have an employee leave for whatever reason and they're no longer with you, turn off their card. Contact facilities, have that turned off immediately. Okay? That's how, we just got done working a case a little while ago. That's how one person got back in the building was their card wasn't shut off because no one thought about turning off the card. And then report suspicious tampering with doors. For some reason, we see different trends. So the trend 2 years ago was they took bottle pop tops from cans and taped them to the magnetic locks. So as the magnetic lock went to shut, what happened? It couldn't shut all the way. It looks like it's fine. There's nothing propping it open until you look up and you can see, oh, they put something there, okay? They cover the lock with tape, whatever it may be. So there are ways that you can tamper with it. If that happens, let us know, because that can be, especially in some of these areas, proprietary information is a big deal. It's a very big deal. So those kind of things coming up missing or all of a sudden being posted online, those are the kind of things that we're going to want to know about. And then talk with your coworkers. Know what's out of place. People ask, well, what if we get a bomb threat? The first thing we're going to do with a bomb threat is we're going to come to you and go, hey, what's out of place here? What doesn't look right? Because I don't work here. And you go, that bag wasn't here. I don't know whose it is. Okay, we can start there. We can start with what's familiar and what's not. And so if you see something out of place, say something. Ask a coworker about it. Don't be afraid to. So part of our staff responsibilities, all right, seek instructions. The emergency alert system, it's now an opt-out program. So we do tests quarterly. We're going to do another test sometime in May just to make sure everything's working. How many of you receive those? Phones, emails? Right. We don't send them out just like, hey, good morning, everybody. How's it going? Right? It's only when we need to do we send those things out. And that's the way we're going to keep it. We don't want to spam you with so much information that you're like, oh, I just don't want to pay attention to it. That's not what it's there for. It's only for emergencies or when we have to do our quarterly tests. Allow students to access personal information. Allow students, heck, allow staff, allow employees. Allow them to access the personal information on their devices if they need to, especially in a time of emergency. You may be asked to secure or barricade a door and entrance to anywhere. Think about how you would do that right now. If you needed to in your office space, how would you secure your door? How would you, as you were going place to place throughout the university, where would you go if there was an issue? Okay, I know I'd go to this building right here because I'm closest to it, and I know I have access. Perfect. That's what you should be doing. Thinking about how you can secure and make your area safer. Listen for instructions for public safety. We're going to send out a text, but it's not going to give you an all-inclusive list. How many of you have a phone that you only get like 167 characters for a text message? Because that's all we can send out at one time. We have to do multiple texts. If you've ever noticed that, if it's a long message, it's multiple texts. We can't only do a certain amount at a time. And then release your employees, your students, if a disruption occurs. How many of you have ever had a disgruntled employee come in? Yeah. What's that like? A little intimidating, right? Hey, does anyone love conflict here? No? No one loves that, right? It's the profession we get into. We love conflict, I think. But no one likes the one-on-one, you did this and you're getting blamed for something that he or she did, okay? Those are very disruptive. If you can safely hold on one second. Hey, why don't you guys take 10? Go ahead, get out of here. And let us talk about this on our own. Because the more they get worked up, the worse it is for everybody, right? Try and talk them down a little bit. So, hey, we'll just get everyone else out of there if we can. So part of our supervisor responsibilities is plan for conflict. HR, if they know they're doing a termination of some kind, they call us. We don't sit in the room with the paper in hand and be like, all right, dude, you're fired. Get your stuff and get out. We just hang out next door. And if there's an issue, we can come over and assist. Luckily, 99% of the time, we don't have to do anything. We sit there, they go through the process, person gets up, have a nice day, and they leave. We've only had to, on a couple instances, actually go in and be like, hey, we're here if you need anything, and the person's like, oh, the cops are here. Then they cool down. So if you need something, if you're going to terminate an employee, if you have a troubled employee, if you have, we have a particular individual who comes up to prospective students pretty regularly. He wants to be a student here, and he comes up every other week asking for things. What do? They call us. Hey, can you guys come talk to him? So we got to go up with him. That's what we do. That's what we're there for. Consider conflict resolution training. We do that. We can assist. There's all kinds of information. There's plenty of information on conflict resolution. But if you want a class, you want some, let us know. We can assist you there. Plan for a controlled environment for a meeting when you have an angry, abusive individuals. And we've already kind of talked about that. Plan that out, though. Take your time to do it. Plan for escape routes. And then play those what-if games with the scenarios, especially if you're going to, say, issue discipline in some way, termination, you're dealing with a difficult employee. Think about this. Okay, what if I do this? Is he or she going to say this? How do I counteract that? Play that out if you need to. It's very helpful. All right, so how do we prevent this? Notify your supervisors. If you know something, something strange. So what if you have an individual who's at work every day at 8 o'clock, and all of a sudden for the past 2 weeks, he or she is now showing up at 8:22 every day? Is that strange? For them, yeah. Should I say something? Yes. Hey, just to let you know, so-and-so is showing up 20 minutes late. I'm not saying to get them in trouble. I'm saying it because it's not normal behavior for them. Okay? That may be a sign that there's something going on at home. Maybe we can assist in some way. Notify the police. You have an individual who's being a constant disruption, whether it's in class, whether it's faculty, students, staff, doesn't matter. Let us know. We can assist. We can assist in a lot of ways. A lot of times, a phone call from the police will de-escalate a situation real quick, especially with a lot of faculty and staff. Okay? And then, if you see something, say something. And I know it's a tagline. We've all seen this, like Department of Home, you see something, say something. And a lot of times people don't want to say anything. Why don't they want to say anything? What's the one thing they're worried about? How about retaliation? How about conflict? How about getting cornered in a room? You did this to me. That's why. You can always tell a supervisor and say, I wish to remain anonymous, but I'm telling you this is what I saw, this is what I heard, this is what's going on. You can do that. They can still rectify problems that way. Just tell somebody. Because that help, that incident that you talked to someone about may help them, and it may turn their life around. It may be good. It may completely de-escalate a situation that may have gone a lot worse eventually. Okay? A lot of times, men especially act out because men are taught to be tough. Men are taught to not care. Men are taught to don't go seek help with anything. You can handle it on your own. That's what we're taught, generally speaking, as men. And so sometimes someone coming to you going, hey, is everything okay? You ever had a bad day? We've all had bad days, right? Is it nice when someone comes up to you and goes, hey, man, you okay? You just came kind of off today. What does that make you feel like inside? It makes me feel good. I'm generally a very happy person. And someone to notice my behaviors, like, oh, they're concerned about me. That's good. That's what we want. We're a caring society, generally speaking. That's what we need to continue that. So we talked a little bit about HR, what they can do. Here's the Nevada System of Higher Education Employee Assistance Program. The life work, it's free, it's confidential, 3 visits a month, 2 or 3 can be on paid administrative leave. Here's the website right down here and a number if you have any questions. So with that, does anyone have any questions for me that I can answer?